said, it's not what we don't know that gets us in trouble. It's what we know for sure that just ain't so. In other words, that suggests that it is not ignorance that causes us problems, but rather our confidence in beliefs or ideas that are actually incorrect. And so, today, the sole purpose of us being here today is what we were trying to do on Tuesday, and that is to give you an opportunity to ask questions and for me to address any and every question that you might have. I wanted you to know, many have asked, well, why hadn't you had a meeting before? Because I was afraid that what happened Tuesday would happen. So if you remember what I did, I opened the door to my office and I asked if anyone had any questions about anything, come and ask me, and I'd be more than happy to go down any avenue that you wanted to go down. But I didn't want to have a platform where people could get ugly. We've seen that in other Revelations when they got together, they kind of didn't get together and express their concerns in a godly way. So that's why I didn't initially try to bring you together. I asked you to come to me individually and allow me to share with you. And many of you did, and I was able to share and give you an understanding. Now, Tabitha is going to come, and we'll thank God for her. She's not new to us. What I wanted her to do is to help facilitate the discussion today. Okay? And this is what I guess I just really put here. Well, I'll come back to that in a moment. But she's going to come. We are in order of services for some other things that have come in. I'll get into that another time. But will you help me welcome Tabitha Matthews? Her claim to fame is that she's Mother Freak's daughter. Amen. Okay. Tabitha.
Thank you so much, everyone. So we'll go ahead and get started. What I'm going to do right now is introduce the attorney for New Life that is assisting with everything we go with regard to this situation. It is Attorney McMillan. He's going to come, he's going to give an address, and then I'll come back and we will facilitate a Q&A. So if you'll have questions for Attorney McMillan, we'll take those questions directly following his address. One more thing, and I just want to, this little while ago, we want to get the word out to any new lifers that were not able to make it. In addition to that, we want them to be able to ask their questions. So we're going to be fielding the questions from Facebook Live. If you can now, so that we can help get this information out, if you can go not to our New Life page, but if you can go to Sister Tangi's Facebook page, Angela Thomas, her Facebook page, and share that stream that Abraham is filming right now. If you can share that stream on Facebook Live, then we'll be able to get the word out so that people are able to see what's going on, hear the questions, hear the answers, and to get a better understanding of what it is that Pastor D and Attorney McMillan would like to communicate tonight. Is that all right? Yeah. All right, amen. So coming up right now is the attorney concerning this situation with New Life. and that is Attorney McNaughton.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. No, we're here, all right? I'm Attorney Derrick, but as many of you know, I'm a son of this ministry. Back in 1997, when I gave my life to the Lord, it was under Bishop's ministry. I saw the twins the other day, and I said, oh my God, I'm getting so old, because they've grown up so much. So I wanted to come before you this evening because there is a lot of misinformation going on about lawsuits and church and property, and I want to explain to everyone what has happened and then answer your questions, because everything that I'm going to tell you now is something that we can verify with courts, documents, or everything. Everything that I'm saying right now can be verified. So please just give me about 5 or 10 minutes. I'm going to kind of give you a little history lesson, tell you exactly what's going on now, and then answer your questions. So back in 1999, this far back, Bishop formed a corporation. You may have heard of this corporation. The corporation is called New Life Ministries of Orlando Incorporated. And the reason why Bishop set up that corporation was because, one, he wanted to spread the gospel, first and foremost. And then secondly, he wanted to be able, under this corporation that he formed, to buy property, churches, to help spread the gospel. So he did that back in 1999. That corporation still exists today. In that corporation back in 1999, he decided that there was going to be a president, a vice president, secretary, treasurer, and trustees who were going to be responsible for making decisions on behalf of the corporation and the church. I was one of the original trustee members of that corporation. And so in that corporation, one of the things that Pastor wanted to make sure we were able to do is to buy property. The church down the street, where y'all have worshiped for years now, is under that corporation. Pastor bought it with church money, and he took out a mortgage on the property. Is there some static going on or something? I'm not sure. I just hear something back here. But anyway, let me just keep going. So, in June of last year, June of 2022, Pastor wanted to refinance the mortgage. He went to the bank, and the bank said, we will refinance the mortgage if you do a couple of things. One of the things that he was required to do was to appoint a successor, that in the event something happened to him, Bishop, somebody would take over the corporation and the church. Bishop appointed his brother, Pastor D, in the succession plan that was presented to the bank. That was one of the requirements. The other requirement that was required was Pastor had to take out a life insurance policy on himself. In legal terms, it's called a key man policy. And real simply, in the event that something happens to the key man, the life insurance company pays the beneficiary. In this case, the beneficiary under that key man policy was New Life Ministries of Orlando Incorporated, the same corporation that he formed back in 1999. Mm-hmm. So because Bishop named his brother as his successor, and because he took out this life insurance policy, the bank refinanced the mortgage on the property. That took place in October of last year. As everybody knows, Bishop was called home on December 5th. He was buried in his homegoing service on December 17th. 5 days after he was buried, his ex-wife, Bernice Hutchins, sued the church. Now, I don't know if everybody realizes that, but she actually sued the church. She sued the church, she sued Pastor D, She sued all of the trustees on the board at that time. In her lawsuit, she didn't say why the church should pay her. She didn't say why Pastor D or the board of trustees owed her any money. She just said, I want money. As I told you before, everything that's coming out of my mouth now, I can prove. So that was the lawsuit that she filed. On January 5th, Pastor D called me, asking for my help. And I said to him, Pastor, I'm the son of this ministry. Even though I haven't been a member in a while, I'm still a son of this church. So what can I do to help? Pastor D showed me the lawsuit that had been filed by Bernice Hutchins. I took a look at it and I said, this is improper. This is not proper, and it should be dismissed. What I said to Pastor D at the time was, I would not handle that lawsuit if it happened. At that time, I hired 2 lawyers. Actually, I didn't hire. Pastor D hired them at my recommendation. 2 lawyers that I've known for years. One lawyer was to handle the key man policy that I just mentioned to you. The second lawyer was to handle the lawsuit filed by Bernice Hutchins. As I told you before, when I saw the complaint filed by Bernice Hutchins, I said it should be dismissed. It was just not proper. The lawyer that Pastor D hired agreed. They had a court hearing, and that case was dismissed. Now, I will tell you, she has appealed that decision. She has. But as it stands right now, the lawsuit that she filed against Pastor D, the church, the board of directors, that has been dismissed. Everybody clear with that? That's the current state. So let me mention something else to you right now. So I mentioned the key man policy. That's the first policy. There's another policy that Bishop had on his life. And in that policy, he listed several beneficiaries. Pastor D is one of them. The church is another beneficiary. Derrick Jr. is a beneficiary. Derrick's children are beneficiary. And so that is the second policy that exists out there. At this time, Bernice Hutchins is trying to get money under that second policy. And so we are working to get that case, that situation settled. The reason why I'm bringing that up now is because there's been some misinformation about the church not wanting to pay Bernice or holding up her money or anything like that. That's false. The only position that we've ever taken is the lawsuit was improper. And the reason why it was improper is because Bernice says, Bishop owed me money. But she never said why Pastor D owed her money, or why the church should have to pay, or why any of the board of trustees should have to pay. And that was just wrong. And the judge agreed. So, but you still have the 2 policies out there. So let me talk about the key man policy, because there's some misinformation about that as well. Under the key man policy, the church is supposed to be paid off. Completely. The bank is the one who has the right to collect the money. Right. So the only thing that needs to happen right now is the bank needs to fill out some paperwork to give to the insurance company. And once that paperwork is filled out, they'll pay off the mortgage. There may be a little bit left over, a little more money that's over, but not much. That's the only thing that's going on with the key man policy. Bank just needs to fill out some paperwork, church is paid off. With the second policy, where Pastor D is a beneficiary and Derrick Jr. is a beneficiary, we are trying to work that out with Bernice Hutchins. Her case was dismissed, I believe it was April. She just said within the last 2 weeks that she's willing to sit down and talk. We've been saying for months, what is it that you want? And so finally, she has agreed to sit down and talk to us, and we're trying to work out a date and time for that to happen. So I hope that clears up any misinformation about the two policies and the role that we have played in all of this. All right? So, I am reluctant to say anything else because we have lawsuits that are pending. The lawyer who represents the church, one of the lawyers who I told you I contacted and asked to be hired, has now filed an injunction against, how can I put this? I'm just going to say it. I'll call it the insurgents, the coup people, the people who are trying to take over the church. And the judge has said that he is not going to rule now, but once all of those people that we sued, Derrick Jr., Maurice Robinson, and a bunch of others, once they actually get a formal copy of the complaint, then the judge will decide once he hears from both sides. So if you hear anything about that injunction being dismissed or denied, that's really what happened. And I have the paperwork to prove that as well. So that's all I have right now. And as Sister Tapper said, we can open the floor for questions, and I will answer whatever I can. Thank you.
Are there any questions for Attorney Matthew Miller?
So what is the holdup as far as the bank signing?
What is the holdup as far as the bank signing the papers?
The question is, what is the holdup for the bank signing the paperwork for the keeping insurance?
There was some confusion initially about who had the right to demand the life insurance proceeds. I mentioned to you a moment ago that there were two lawyers, one representing the church, one representing the church under the key man policy. That lawyer actually sued the insurance company. And then when she sued the insurance company came back and said, it is the bank who has the responsibility to fill out the paperwork. We can't do it. The bank has to do it. And so we had contact with the bank, told them what they need to do in order to get their money, and that's all I know about it right now.
So was there some discretion in the policy? Is the reason why they didn't honor that policy?
There was no discretion or ambiguity in the policy. What actually happened was, Pastor was a beneficiary, and initially, the church was supposed to give the money. The church then assigned its rights under the policy to the bank. So when that assignment occurred, and an assignment is pretty common in insurance cases and stuff. When that assignment occurred, then the bank is the one who has the right to the money to enforce the life insurance policy, not the church, even though it is the church that's going to ultimately benefit and have its mortgage paid off.
Could you clarify that you said pastor was supposed to initially get the money?
I misspoke. I misspoke. Whoa. Thank you for pointing that out. That's all kind of problems. No, the church, New Life Ministries of Orlando Incorporated, is the beneficiary under that policy, and they're the ones whose mortgage will be paid off once the bank pays. Yes, sir.
Yeah. The question is, who was the lien holder on the property?
The bank. You want the name?
Yeah, because it's just like a house. When you're paying a house off, whoever that lien holder rolls the note on the property, that insurance, you know what I'm talking about, will go to them, and then they will pay off. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm saying. So who's the lien holder on New Life?
Supt Space Coast. They're the lien holder. They're the ones who refinance the mortgage.
Right.
After they got the succession plan, after the key man policy, they're the ones who refinance the mortgage, and so they're the lien holder.
Yeah, so that's what's, okay, because I know Pastor D was talking about clarify, make sure it didn't go to him.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But again,
Sorry about that.
when you do things like that, the insurance policy, it goes to the lien holder. You know what I'm talking about? For that holds the lien on the bank, they would in turn give us the note to, showing that the church is paid off.
Yes, that's exactly right.
I need you to clarify that I don't communicate with the, what is that, John Hancock with the insurance company. I don't communicate, their communication is directly with Space Coast, not me.
Yes. John Hancock is prohibited from speaking to Pastor D directly, in part because Space Coast is the lien holder. The other part of it is he's represented by lawyers. He has 3 of them. And so John Hancock is prohibited under the Florida bar from communicating directly with Pastor D because he has lawyers. Any communications have to go through the lawyers.
Right.
And so that's why I know what's happening, what's going on. Yes, ma'am.
So legally, how long can this go on? Well, I mean, that's okay. My voice is loud.
I heard you.
Yeah, legally, how long can this go on? I mean, can this be dragged out for months and months? It's already been 6 months.
Yes. How long? The fact that everybody who has an interest in the life insurance policies has agreed to talk tells me that it's going to come to an end sooner than later under the second insurance policy. Everybody who is going to get paid under that policy wants to sit down and work it out.
I'm talking about the key band policy.
I'm going to get to that in a second. I just want to address both of them.
Okay.
Under the key man policy, that is up to the bank, but that bank has not taken any action against the church or the corporation because they know they're going to get paid. And so, how long is that going to take? I'm surprised it hasn't worked out already. But that is the least of everyone's concerns because the bank knows they're going to get the money. That's what the policy was for, and they're going to get paid. And that's not going to affect what happens down the street.
So do we have to continue to pay a monthly
Like
note
interest.
on the church while they're waiting for the bank to decide to pay it, decide to go with the insurance policy?
I'll let Pastor B address that.
My question was, do we have to continue to pay?
The monthly mortgage on it.
And interest too. And interest, if
What we were advised to do is to meet with the bank and see if they would give us some kind of contingency agreement that would push the payment on the end or something, or reduce it until this was paid off, because they know they're going to get it, and we're in negotiations and they're saying, sure, we can do that, but they just have to get some things, financials and stuff like that. But yes, we're in the process of what we call a contingency agreement, based on the fact that they know they're going to get their money.
Attorney Miller, is it also noteworthy to mention that a part of the initial delay was also that when there's an insurance policy in place, and the person, the primary person insured died within 2 years of the policy, there will automatically be an investigation?
Mr. Randall, I'm not aware of that position that the insurance company took. I do know, because the insurance company communicated to the lawyers that represented the church, including me, that they did not want to pay under either policy because of the lawsuit brought by Bernice Hutchins. They got scared. They didn't know who to pay. And they had encouraged all the parties to sit down and try and work it out. And what they said was, if you can't work it out, then we, John Hancock, will file a lawsuit against anybody and everybody who can claim under the policy, and then we'll just let the courts sort it out. We do not want to do that because once a lawsuit is filed, it could work out in a month, it could work out in 10 years. Some of this stuff is just out of your control. I had one case where it lasted so long, my oldest son started middle school, it was filed, it didn't get settled until he graduated from high school.
Oh, yeah.
No joke.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So we did not want to go that route. And so we kept asking the insurance company, just hold off on filing that lawsuit. And they agreed. But that's the only reason why they didn't pay. Because Bernice Hutchins says, I want money. They didn't know who to pay, and so they backed away. And that's what happened. Yes, sir.
It's the pastor ex-wife still has his name, his last name. Sorry.
That's that.
The bishop ex-wife still has his last name.
Yes, sir. That's what she filed a lawsuit against everybody under Bernice Hutchins. Yes.
So are they still legally married?
No, sir. They got divorced back in 2010.
But she still carries his last name.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Good question. God bless everyone. Good to see my family tonight. In the original divorce decree,
I'm sorry, brother. Could you speak? I just didn't hear that.
God knows I would never miss anybody in any type of way. But quick question. In the divorce decree, when Bishop and Bernice Hutchins were divorced, was it ordered that he keeps the policy open at the time until his death?
Yes. There was in that divorce decree in order that he keep an insurance policy on his life until he died. Yes.
Okay.
The policy, the order didn't say how much the insurance policy should be, but it did say he had to have an insurance policy. That's what it said.
Again, God bless everybody. So when it comes to Bishop having a living son, to my knowledge, you correct me if I'm wrong, anything that's left after that outside of the will and Bishop's wishes, the son is automatically the beneficiary, correct? Outside of the ex-wife, who still carries the last name, but as far as the son, the only son, he's the beneficiary, technically, of everything. That's flesh and blood. That's legacy. Am I right?
No, you're not. That's incorrect.
Okay. Well, please explain.
So that's why I started this discussion about explaining what Bishop did in terms of forming the ministry of the corporation and who was responsible for making those decisions under New Life Ministries of Orlando Incorporated. You're talking about a probate or a will issue, and this isn't that. This is who is responsible for that building and who can make decisions about that building. And under the lawsuits that's been filed, it is the president and pastor of the church. That's Pastor D, because at the time that the succession plan was formed, Bishop was the president of the corporation, and he had the right to appoint his successor. And so that's why you're incorrect in your statement. Is there another question back there? It seems like there's a brother here.
I'm saying, is that based upon the original bylaws or?
That is based upon the Articles of Corporation.
The original.
And well, I'm not going to go into too much detail about the basis for that. The reason why is this. We are currently in litigation against Derrick Jr., Lee Robinson, and a bunch of other people. I'm not going to reveal our strategy in the open. Now, I will tell you, if you want to hear what our defenses are in our strategy, you are more than welcome to attend any court hearings that we have. And that can be posted. And then you'll hear exactly where we're coming from. But right now, this is the time or the place to tell how we plan on winning these cases.
It has been said that the succession plan was not signed by Bishop, was it?
No.
So is it legal?
Yes, ma'am.
How?
Well, again, I'm not going to go into the reasons why it's illegal, because again, that is an argument that I know that Derrick Jr. and everybody who's supporting him is going to make. And so I'm not going to right now say how I know for sure that it is legal, but it is. And that's something that we're going to judge. Yes, sir.
Okay, then without getting into that, when I'm gonna use this as an example. My sister and her husband, they passed away. Okay, he had a will, but it wasn't signed. So even when the daughters and the children went to try to get, one thing the Lord said, well, Daddy told us that, yeah, but it's not signed. So in other words, you know, he could have said 50 million things, or whatever the case may be, but that document, that was on the 29th, this is the thing that she transcribed, you know, to me, all they would have to do is just sign it. You know, now, so away from all of that, just say anybody out in the street or whatever the case may be. Anybody, you know, they just want anything to tell you, if it's not signed and it's not notarized, whatever the case may be, it's just a piece of paper. It don't mean nothing.
So let me just talk about that. I'm going to use your example. Okay? Because under Florida law, all wills have to be signed and notarized. All wills. If a will is not signed and notarized by at least two people, it is invalid. It doesn't matter if that was daddy's intent, it doesn't matter if that was grandma's intent. You should sign it in front of two witnesses and have it notarized. Usually there is some record of a board meeting or approval of that succession plan. And this is what I will say. That succession plan was included in the documents that were submitted to the bank in order to get the mortgage refinanced. All right? It was sent to the bank in order to get the mortgage refinanced. For all those who are listening. And accepted. For all those who are listening. That's key.
Question?
My question is, with all the things going on now, it's all civil. My question is when people are trying to take the church hostage, what I want to know is what authority, who has authority over New Life at this time right now? Who does the law look at? And that Silverstein is being the pastor of the church right now. While all this is going on, the case will be heard in October. So what I want to know is who has the legal authority in the church right now while this is going on.
The rightful legal authority lies with Pastor D and the board of directors, trustees, who were in place at the time that Bishop died.
Next question.
That's been changed, right? No.
I was just clarifying what Attorney McMillan said and just making sure that I understood correctly about the question regarding the succession plan. When you said that it was submitted to the banks, who would have submitted that?
Bishop. And Bishop signed the application to get the mortgage refinanced.
Next question.
Okay, so that I'm clear, the succession plan that was not signed was in a packet which was required by the bank. But the succession plan nor any of the other preceding documents were signed or initialed except the last page, and that's what made it legal.
Correct. It's an exhibit attached to a bunch of documents. You don't have to sign every single exhibit, you have to initial every exhibit as long as it is contained in a packet that is given to somebody and relied upon by somebody.
Any other questions for Attorney McMillan?
Maybe so.
So Derrick Jr. know this? In other words, what's the fight about now? Have we made that clear to him? So he can be clear?
I don't know what he thinks because he refuses to talk to me. He refused to talk the other evening. What he does know is based upon the lawsuit that we filed against him because we laid all of this out. And he got a copy of it. So he knows the position that we're taking. Whether or not he believes it or not, I can't tell you. He should.
Well, what I'm saying is, even the packet, have you all even showed him what was what? Because in other words, like I say, you got him and some other people that you all junction against, whatever the case may be. But I would think that if you all showed him, send it to him, say, look, this is what's what, and that's what I would think. Because again, what the argument is now, that saying that his uncle is not the legitimate pastor, and it's going back and forth.
Yep. But here's what I would say about this. Bishop did it at the time that the succession plan was put in place. Bishop did it. And Bishop...
So he did it or he did?
He did it. Did it.
Oh, he did.
Bishop did it.
Okay.
And Bishop, while he was alive, got the church's mortgage refinanced.
Right, I remember when he said that. Right.
So clearly, people must know that if this document was sent to the bank, and then the bank, because of that document, gives you a bunch of money, and you take the money, even though it's a refinance or whatever, then clearly that was Bishop's intent to make Pastor D his successor.
One more, I don't want to be the only one talking.
No, but even, okay, my question is, during the funeral, one of the things that Bishop Sears said is for that you all to work together. You know what I mean? Because, you know, he told him, say, look, you know, this is, we're going to honor his wishes. But he did tell them that to work together. So my thing is, I think I already know the answer. I'm going to ask the question I already know the answer to. Why aren't they working together?
So,
you know the charge?
let me say this. Bishop passed away on December 5th. On December 17th, they had the homegoing service. 5 days later, even though she showed up at the service, 5 days later, she sues the church, Pastor D, and everybody that I just mentioned. Does that strike you as somebody who was trying to work things out?
But that's not.
No, just a second, just a second. I'll get there, man. Just a second. Okay. That's what she did. Now, whether you agree with it, don't agree with it, that's your, I'm trying to look at it. That's your right. But that's the fact, that's what she did. With respect to Derrick Jr., I have been involved in this since January 5th. And at no time have I been contacted by him, any lawyers representing him, or any of the people who have stormed that building saying, hey, let's just sit down and try to work it out. Never. What we got was a lawsuit from her, and then what happened last week.
Now, I don't mean to be disrespectful. We're not talking about her. We're talking about Pastor D and Derrick.
Well, that's what I just, and you know something? That's from my perspective. I'll let Pastor D answer that question for you. From a legal perspective, that what I just said is true. Yes.
Well, no, regarding what Brother Ernie was stating just a minute ago, my question was, personally, I asked Bishop Porter Tuesday night when Pastor D stated that we was gonna have a meeting with him and the members. My question, as so was with Minister Chapman, I asked Bishop Porter, where do New Life stands as having a pastor? And his answer to me, and it's on tape as well, Bishop said his son was his legacy. He said Pastor D was his brother, and that they would retire together, but his legacy and his dream was for his son. So that is what Bishop Porter said to me Thursday. I mean Tuesday, yeah. Tuesday. I'm sorry. Tuesday. So
all I know is what the documents say was Bishop's intent. And the documents that have been filed with the court say that it was his intent to make Pastor D the pastor when he died. Now, what happens after that, what he ultimately wanted to happen later on down the road, that's another question. But at the moment of his death, it is clear that what Bishop wanted was for his brother to take over. That's clear. Under the documents that have been filed with the court and that the court will take a look at.
We are at 6:20. We'll take one more question. And we are already at 6:20. This will be the last question for Attorney McMillan. And then we will move forward to Pastor D.
And this isn't really a question. It's more so a statement in regards to the question that was just asked. And that is that we know that Bishop died what we would deem as suddenly. And, you know, I'm not going to profess to know his every thought. You know, I think that's almost like an insult. But what we can say is that retiring and dying are different. And really that's all I'm saying. Retiring and dying suddenly is two different things. And I'm hoping, you know, with what Bishop Shear said and what has happened, like, this is not the end of life, but what happened Sunday and what happened Tuesday, we are brothers and sisters. How can we work together with that? So that's all I'm saying is, you know, what was displayed on Tuesday and Sunday, how can we recover from that? We can recover. It'll take God himself, you know, for us to recover, but yeah.
I hope everybody.
I sense that there are people who still have questions, and I know that we need to move on.
Yeah.
But I will stick around after this to answer any of the questions that I can, so that you have comfort in what I am saying. Okay? Thank
We
you.
definitely want to be able to get to the Q&A for Pastor D, so I'm just trying to.
Thank you.
The question was asked about working together. And I don't know if I should say this, but I'm going to say this. Pastor D did reach out to his nephew just the other day. He called him 3 times. 3 times. The nephew never responded. For the first time since this was going on, I spoke to Derrick Jr. today for the first time. And said the same exact words to him was, this can be stopped right now if you two get together and talk. Derrick Jr.'s exact words to me today was this right here. His words to me was this. The lawyers are going to do the talking, I'm not talking. That was his exact words to me this morning.
But is that for Attorney McMillan? Because I really want to go on to Pastor D. If you think that what you're going to say is going to. Okay.
Most of you know me, I'm not a big talker, but
we know.
I hear what you're saying, Minister Chapman. But what led up to Pastor Derrick making that statement? Because I love you, Pastor D. I'm being real with you, but I was a part of a conversation where you said it would be hypocritical of you to establish a relationship with your nephew now because you never had one before. So it's like, that's a bit conflicting for me, you know. No disrespect, you know.
That's a question.
It's a question.
I got you. Okay,
All right, that's a perfect segue. Pastor D is going to speak first, right after he goes through what he wants to lay out first. Then we're going to segue into the Q&A, so keep that in mind.
I'm good for me. Let me say first of all, and I probably will start right where you were, okay? And I want to thank you all, because some of you, I understand you support Pastor Derrick, but yet you've been respectful in here today, and I want to thank you for that. Thank you.
Amen.
That's right, that's right. This is all we wanted was dialogue.
Yeah.
Respectful dialogue. Now, the first thing I want to do is I want to thank Attorney McMillan for coming and being willing to answer our questions.
Yes.
Can we? It's okay to take a minute. Normally you would say, you know, he don't have no dog in the fight, but the bottom line is he loved Bishop Hutchins, and he came to Christ up under Bishop Hutchins' ministry. I hope he can share one day how that happened. It'll bring water to your eyes, how Bishop's preaching that very renowned message, I am a debtor, that touched his heart and changed his life. So we thank him for that, for coming and being with us. And while I'm thanking, and now you gotta have to be patient, okay? And we fumble a little bit through this, but I wanted to take my time and speak from my heart. I was gonna have some notes and put them down. I just wanted to talk to you from my heart. The old adage is, what comes from the heart will reach the heart. And so right now, I think it's very important, extremely important, because of some of the damage done. I need you to know that I was trying to facilitate this kind of atmosphere when I, Pastor D, invited Bishop Porter to come. What Sister Tabitha is doing, that's what Bishop Porter came to do. He didn't come to defend me, he just came to facilitate conversation, and for him to be disrespected and that's one of the highest men in the presidium of the Church of God in Christ, 7, 8 million members, and for him to have been disrespected like that, that's just wrong. And I want to let him know we appreciate his efforts. And what you don't know, he spent, because he had to come at the last minute, $1,500 for the ticket. Do you hear me? Will you just help me tell the world we appreciate you, Bishop Porter? Thank you, sir. Thank you for trying to help us and to facilitate a conversation. Now, let me start with the remark that you made, Brother Darrell. I did say that, but you kind of took it out of context. What I was saying is, it would be hypocritical of me to say that my nephew and I have always had a good relationship. I sat Pastor Derrick in my office. He came there. I said to him, now you and I know, I asked your father, did I offend you in another lifetime or something? And I said, now you know that we have not had a good relationship, but I commit to you that from this day forward, I will be committed to developing that relationship. So let's go back a little bit. I'm going to make statements and then I'll talk. I'll give you an opportunity to answer the question after I make my opening statement. So is that okay? Yes. Okay. So let's back up. Let's back up. I really did. And if I failed, it wasn't because I didn't try. When my brother transitioned, I'm trying to get this. And Pastor Derrick Kane was coming to Memphis. I paid for his hotel. I also cashed him some money just to try to make it a little easier on him, okay? And so, and this is before I knew anything about any desire for him to succeed my brother. I didn't know, okay? On Tuesday, that Tuesday before the legacy celebration, I had brought the church together. Normally it would be Bible study. And I was touched in my heart that I was hurting. I was hurting like I've never hurt before. But it dawned on me, I wasn't the only one hurting, that the membership was hurting. And so I called a prayer meeting for that Tuesday, because I thought prayer might be the cord that can help us all to heal. And that's what I did. Now, again, I didn't know anything. This reporter had came in that Tuesday, and he said to me, he wanted to speak just for a minute, I don't know, to greet or what, the congregations. And I said, well, let me talk to you first, before you greet them. I just want to know where you're going with this. We were in the conference room, and he said to me, you know, and this is, he calls him Derrick, he's like a nephew. He said, you know, Derrick is saying his father told him that he was to succeed him. Okay? That's my first time hearing it. I'm like, oh. I was Scooby-Doo moment there. And then he said, this really blew me away. He said, Derrick said that his father told him that he was the succeeder. And then he said it, you got to know Bishop Porter. He said, and he told me that too. And can you imagine what I'm feeling right there? And I said, what did he say? He said that you and him are old, or getting old. When y'all got old, you'd be too old. And I said, yeah, he told the congregation that. What he said was, when I get 78, 80, my brother would be 72, 69. I'm just kidding. But you get the point, huh? And so he said, so he'll probably want to retire too. So we would look for someone of another generation to take the church forward. Right. So when he said that he wanted him to succeed him, he was talking about in his retirement, not in his immediate death. Okay? And that's the reason many of you know several times when he was giving the honor to me or something, he would say, if anything were to happen to me, my brother is to succeed me. He said that hundreds of times over the years. Okay? So I think it was